Hello, I'm Ollie and this is CriminOlly, where I talk about crime, pulp, horror, that kind of thing. Today I can resist anything except temptation. I've got another book haul for you. So my last book haul video, I mused a bit about book hauls generally, about what I think is the value of book hauls, and also about the fact that hauling books can be good for the soul. It's a comforting thing to do sometimes. And as you know, if you've been watching the channel recently, I've been going through some mental health challenges recently, and definitely have felt in the need of a bit of comfort. So for various reasons, which I will talk through in this video, I've ended up, after that last video where I said I was going to slow down, I think I even mused on the possibility of having a one in, one out rule. I'm definitely not going to do that just yet. I've ended up with quite a lot of books to go through with you today, some of which have been sent to me by people. So as usual, I will start with those. So I've got a few things from kind of authors / publishers. So let's do one from an author first. This one I think was sent unsolicited. If you did email me, Brendan, apologies because I've forgotten, but it looks really fun. It's Olly Armageddon by Brendan Onfridchuk. Hopefully I pronounced your name reasonably well. This looks like a really fun, short, pulpy sci-fi adventure with a fantastic cover. Let me read you the back. In the year 2146, the Earth Defense Fleet tasked Captain Blast Johnson with testing an experimental propulsion system. After crash landing on the savage alien world of Arcolni, Blast must use all his strength and military training to survive fierce encounters and defeat deadly foes. However, not everything is as it appears, and our hero will find himself deciding the fate of two worlds. So that does look fun. Thanks very much for sending that over, Brendan. Right, moving on then. So a couple of things from publishers. So the first of those is from Penguin. I think it might be the first time Penguin have reached out and offered me a book. So that felt good. I have to say, Penguin being like an absolute favourite publisher of mine. So this is definitely an advanced copy. It's got a very boring cover, but it sounds really fun. So it's The Cat by Georges Simenon. So I'm a big fan of Simenon's Maigret books. Oh, look, it's got some nice little bookmarks in it as well. This is about a cat by the sound of it. It's apparently an acerbic tale of marital warfare and emotional estrangement. In the oppressive silence of the sitting room, the woman finally smoothed out the paper and without putting on her glasses read the two words her husband had written: The Cat. So I don't really know what this is about, but it looks quite fun. And as I say, Simenon is usually good value for money. Right, moving on then. So another one from a publisher, albeit I think Eric, the author, may have had a part in sending this to me because he generally makes sure I get sent copies of his books. So this from Titan Books is Burnt Sparrow Book 1 by Eric LaRocca. So I'm really intrigued by this. So this is a trilogy, the first book in a trilogy. So the title of this one, I need to move this nice band it's got. Let's remove that so you can see it properly. So it's called We Are Always Tender with Our Dead. Eric LaRocca always has the best titles. So this is the first in a trilogy set in the town of Burnt Sparrow, which according to the press release is kind of Twin Peaksy. So yes, sounds very interesting indeed. I will look forward to reading this. Titan do a lovely job with these little hardbacks they do for Eric LaRocca's books. And again, like the Georges Simenon books, comes with a nice bookmark as well. So I will try and get that read soon. And then from a viewer, so a viewer called David from the States reached out to me to say he had been building for himself a collection of all of the James Bond books, and he'd ended up with a load of duplicates. Would I like them? He sent me a photo of all the ones he had. Some of them were more modern ones, which I was less interested in. Whoops, just dropped something off my lap. But he also had some lovely vintage editions. And I said, if you don't mind sending them to me, that would be absolutely fantastic. And they are just gorgeous. So let me show you. They've all got these lovely, or most of them have got these lovely red edging to the pages. So we have Goldfinger. I don't know if this is a paperback first edition or not. I didn't actually check that, but certainly a lovely vintage paperback. So this is from 1959. So it's 26th printing, but I think it is the first paperback edition. So anyway, Goldfinger. I need to figure out where I can put things. Live and Let Die, with a fantastic picture on the back of Ian Fleming with a revolver. I don't know how well you can see that. A revolver and a cigarette, even better. Very, very Bond. The Man with the Golden Gun. And You Only Live Twice, which is a really fantastic cover. So yeah, these are absolutely gorgeous. And then also, so those are all Fleming ones. Then also, I think this is the first of the non-Fleming Bond books. So this is Colonel's Son by Robert Markham, who was actually Kingsley Amis. This has just a fantastic pulpy paperback cover. Look at that. Absolutely glorious. I remember my dad having a pan edition of Colonel's Son when I was growing up, but the cover wasn't anywhere near as fabulous as that. And then also, I hadn't heard of this, but it looks interesting. It's the authorised biography of James Bond by John Pearson. So let's read the back of this. Is there a real James Bond? The fantastic answer is yes, and he's still alive. With the full cooperation of the British Secret Service and James Bond himself, the incredible story is told at last. Meet the real James Bond in an amazing series of adventures and situations only hinted at in the best-selling novels. So this does sound interesting, and actually it continues. 007's unusual childhood, the night he lost his wallet and his virginity in Paris and found his first love, his first assignment at 17 to save the bank at Monte Carlo, the bizarre affair in which he killed a man, the sensational scandal that brought him dismissal and almost ended his career, unrecorded episodes and murder and betrayal in his deadly war with Smersh, erotic encounters at home and abroad, the astounding facts behind his greatest fictional exploits. It's a supercharged James Bond saga as thrilling as any of Ian Fleming's best-selling novels. So that looks wonderful. I'm just going to quickly mute my laptop because it's beeping for some reason. So thank you so much for all of these, David. They look absolutely fantastic. And then also got from my wife a book which I think will be a useful guide, given we have a cat who is somewhat mischievous sometimes. So it's How to Tell If Your Cat is Plotting to Kill You, which is a series of cartoons which looks very funny indeed. So I will look forward to reading this. I think these were originally published on the internet rather than in any magazines. There is a poster in here as well, apparently, so I'll have to try and find that. So that looks good. So now I'm going to clumsily insert this extra section into the video because about an hour after I finished filming yesterday, the postman came with another book. And then I also remembered this morning that there was another book that I'd forgotten to include, both of which have come from authors/publishers. So I'm putting them into this section of the video rather than at the end. So the thing that came yesterday was Occult Detective Magazine issue 11, edited by John Linwood Grant and Dave Brzezinski. So this is like hot off the presses, just come out just in time for Occult Detective October, a magazine I heartily recommend, not least because, or in fact not at all because, I've actually got an article in this issue of it. So I did an interview a while ago with the author Cooper S. Beckett, who wrote the Osgood books, which I've talked about on the channel before. They are fantastic occult detective books with a very, very modern vibe to them. So if you're looking for something a bit different for Occult Detective October, I definitely recommend Cooper S. Beckett's works. So yeah, I did a review of the series in here, as well as an interview with him. Roy from the channel Roy Reads Anything has also got an article in here, and there's loads of stories as well. So it looks really fantastic and has got a wonderful cover as well. So thank you very much, Dave, for sending this through to me. And then the other thing, which had arrived a little while ago, but it was on my TBR cart rather than my book haul shelf, so I forgot to include it yesterday, is a book that actually came out yesterday. So it came out, where are we now? So that's 26. That came out on the 25th of September. This video will go up a little bit later than that. So it's They Own the Night by Amy McCaw, author of Mina and the Undead, which I really enjoyed. So this is a YA retelling of the Dracula story, but set in the UK. Well, I suppose Dracula's partly set in the UK, but set during the 1980s. I've actually started it. I'm about 44 pages in, and I'm really enjoying it so far. It's really fun, and came with a lovely kind of postcard as well as a bookmark, which I've managed to drop on the floor and now can't find. So anyway, I wanted to make sure I didn't miss these two things because they're both super exciting. I would let you now get back to yesterday's Ollie for the rest of the video. Before I get into all of the second-hand books I bought recently, I'll just quickly do the Commandos that have come in. So we've got Noose for a Hero, which is a great title and a great cover. V for Vengeance, Prisoner 7324, which again is a fantastic cover. Eagle's Descent, not quite such a good cover. And The Secret Base, which looks very dramatic. So I shall look forward to reading all of those. Right, let me now tell you the story of all of the books I've got here and try and come up with excuses as to why I was allowed to buy them. So the first two I feel like I've got a reasonably good excuse for. So my mum, her eyesight is not what it used to be. Hello mum, if you're watching. And she's been trying to get hold of some like large print books, but particularly like books that aren't too heavy because her hands aren't quite what they used to be either. So like paperback hardbacks, and most of paperback hardbacks, paperback large print books. Most of the large print books you can get are hardback. So I was at my local library the other day and they had like a cart where they sell off second-hand books, and they had some paperback large print books, including a copy of Fat Olly's book by Ed McBain, which is one of my favourite books. So I bought her some of those anyway, but they also had a couple of things that caught my eye. So I got those too. So I got another Georges Simenon book, The Misty Harbour, which is one of the Maigret books. And then I'm just going to chuck these on the floor because I'm running out of space. And then a British Library crime classic, Death on the Cherwell by Mavis Doriel Hay, which looks very nice. I don't know when this came out. Oh, it's got a nice little map at the beginning as well. I'm imagining this is super old. 1935 it originally came out. And it's got an introduction by Stephen Booth, who's a rather good British crime writer who I actually met a few years ago at a crime writing kind of class. Right, so I also got, just when I was out and about with my wife, we popped into a few charity shops in Worthing, which is near us, and I saw this Gideon's Sword by Preston and Child. I can never remember their first names. Now someone, and apologies, I forget who it was, on my Discord was suggesting the other day that I should read some more of the, not this series, so this is a first in a separate series from them, but their series about Agent Prendergast, which started with Relic, which I have read. So I've read Relic and Reliquary, and I think one of the other early ones. I do have another one of those, which I need to read at some point, but I saw this and was reminded of that conversation, so I thought I would grab this. Then I've got some books that I bought online. So MJ from the channel Reading This Life and I have a habit of doing buddy reads of trilogies from the Sweet Valley High series. So I have got a new trilogy which we are going to buddy read soon. So it's a fashion trilogy. It's by the look of it, the name of the trilogy is the Flair trilogy. So three books in the trilogy, clearly, where Jessica and Elizabeth, the Sweet Valley High twins, become models. So we've got Cover Girls, Model Flirt, and Fashion Victim. And I think I discovered this trilogy because I just read Fashion Victim by R. St. Clair. I read that during Garb August. And I think when I was searching for the cover for it online or something like that, I discovered that there were some Sweet Valley High, or was a Sweet Valley High book with the same name. And that led to me discovering the trilogy and proposing to MJ that we should read it. And then I discovered another trilogy, which I really want to read. I've ordered one of the books. Well, I've ordered all three of the books. But two of them I could only get, or it was much cheaper to get them from the US rather than the UK. So it's the Camp Echo miniseries, which is a like summer camp with a slasher by the looks of it series. So the first of those is Elizabeth's Rival, and as I say, the other two parts are on their way from the States to here. So the reason for buying those books was buddy reads, which is an okay reason. And then I was browsing on Vinted the other day after having another discussion, this time with one of my patrons, where we were discussing, it was in a comment on the video. Which video was it? I'm trying to remember if it was a video where I was talking about novelisations. I think it was the video where I reviewed the 2 novelisations of the zombie movies. And Richard, one of my patrons, said he was a huge fan of movie novelisations as well. And when he'd been at school, the one that was like everyone read was a novelisation of Aliens by Alan Dean Foster. I also read that as soon as it came out and remember it very fondly. So I went on to Vinted. I went onto eBay first and couldn't find a cheap copy, so I looked at Vinted and found this very good condition, very affordable copy. So I'm very much looking forward to rereading this. However, the same seller also had a couple of other books, and it was like if you buy more than one thing, you save a bit. Whoops, you save a bit on postage. So I also got from that seller Death Day by Sean Hutton, which again I read back in the 80s and really liked and have been meaning to reread. And also Death Trance by Graham Masterton, which I don't believe I have read, but I do quite like a bit of early Graham Masterton, or indeed later Graham Masterton. And then because I'd looked at that Sean Hutton book, I think Vinted recommended to me, after I bought it, a seller who had like a job lot of 3 Sean Hutton books. And I was like, well, one of those Sean Hutton books is another copy of Death Day, so I'm not going to buy it. So I kind of like favorited it. I think that's what I'm trying to say, but didn't actually buy it. And then a few days later, I got an email saying they dropped the price. So I ended up buying it because whilst I now have 2 copies of Death Day, maybe I'll do a giveaway at some point in the future. I've also now got a nice paperback copy of Captives, which I have read before, but which I remember being a decent one. But even better, I've got a signed copy of Victims. So really, the price of all 3 was worth it just for this. And this is exactly the same edition of Victims that I used to have, and I also used to have a signed edition. So this may even be my original signed edition. Probably not, but yes. So this is signed by the author. There is the author. If you don't know what Sean Hutton looked like in the 80s, he was incredible. And here is his signature. So very pleased to once again have a signed Sean Hutton book. And I remember this one being incredibly horrific. So it's about a guy, or part of the story. I think there's 2 different storylines in this, but one of them is about a guy who's a special effects artist. And he uses, in order to make his special effects really really convincing, he actually uses real body parts, like real corpses that he gets from the morgue, unbeknownst to the people he's making the films with. I seem to remember there was one scene where there's a baby in a microwave. It's a dead baby, which doesn't really make it okay. But anyway, a particularly horrible book. So looking forward to rereading that. So that gets me through quite a lot. So I kind of feel like I've made reasonable excuses for most of those things. Anyway, we then get to the fact that I was in Hove about 10 days ago, I guess it was. And on the way to an appointment with my therapist to help me with my mental health challenges. And there's a YMCA charity shop which often has older books. So as I've said before on the channel, one of my problems with charity shops nowadays in the UK is they don't have old stuff, they just have boring new stuff. But this YMCA shop often has older stuff, which is quite fun. And I went in there and they had an 8 for a pound deal on their books. And I just couldn't resist. So I have ended up with quite a big pile, which I will go through with you now. So I got, and quite a few of these books I have owned copies of before, and I do quite like re-owning books I used to own. So one of the ones I owned before, I'm fairly sure, but I'm not sure if I ever read it, is The Holcroft Covenant by Robert Ludlum. There's more Ludlum to come, by the way, so if you're a Ludlum fan, stay tuned. So yeah, so The Holcroft Covenant by Robert Ludlum, and then they had loads of old Mills and Boon books, like gorgeous, like 70s and 80s Mills and Boon. So I've got Call Up the Storm by Jane Donnelly, When do these? Let's see when this actually came. Oh no, it's 83. This is. Oh no, it's got a stamp from Two Way Books inside. Someone in the comments the other day was mentioning Two Way Books, which used to be a fantastic second-hand bookshop in Brighton. Where it was one of those like book exchange type places where you could buy a book and then read it and take it back and get like half the price as credit on your next purchases. So anyway, continuing, Country of the Falcon by Anne Mather. Valley of the Moon by Margaret Way. The Demetrius Line by Margaret Pargeter. Closest Place to Heaven by Lindsay Stevens. A Fierce Encounter by Jane Donnelly. That might be the best cover. It looks, I don't know if it's set in Australia. I don't know what's going on actually. Is he like I don't know, is he supposed to be like a bullfighter or something? I'm going to have to read the back of this. I don't think he is. 5 years ago, Lacey Allen's boy and girl sparring partnership with Martin Jackson in one unforgettable encounter had blazed briefly into something far more passionate. But obviously Lacey had read too much into it, for immediately afterwards Martin had taken himself off, and she had seen and heard nothing from him since. Now, however, he had suddenly turned up again, but Lacey was older and wiser now, and she had made a satisfactory life for herself and was almost certainly going to marry Paul Behague. Martin couldn't upset her now, but could she be quite sure of that? So I don't think he is. But I don't think he's anything unusual. But what is he wearing? Anyway, continuing with the Wills and Boons. So we have Subtle Revenge by Carol Mortimer. Stormy Vigil by Elizabeth Graham. Perfect Partner by Carol Mortimer. And then moving a bit later, I'm guessing these are 90s ones. Let's have a look. Oh no, this is still 80s, but slightly later in the 80s, so slightly different cover design. Long Journey Back by Robin Donald. House of Glass by Michelle Reed. And A Stranger to Love by Donna Huxley, with a nice London setting, clearly. So a bunch of Mills and Boons, but that's not the end. So I also found there this book, which I know very little about, other than I'm sure my dad had a copy of it when I was growing up. So Dad, if you're watching this, let me know if you did indeed have a copy of this and if it was any good. So it's the 400, which is by Stephen Shepherd, which according to the cover is the most talked about book of the year. What year did it come out? So it came out in 1979. I suspect it wasn't the most talked about book of 1979, but it's a kind of adventure story, I think, about like a heist or something like that. Right, moving on then. I also picked up Rough Justice by Jack Higgins, the legend Jack Higgins, as it says on the front. This is very thick for a Jack Higgins book, but I think it's very thick because it's got huge margins, wide spacing, and lots of chapters where they take up like they insert a couple of blank pages to make the book look bigger. Anyway, I haven't read in Jack Higgins for a while, so I should look forward to that. I got 2 books by Georgette Heyer, False Colours, which has got a fairly boring cover, I have to say, and Pistols for Two, which has a more intriguing cover. So I don't know if these are both, I suspect, yeah, so these are both from her kind of Regency romance type of book rather than being mysteries, but they both look fun. I then also got, and I do have the ebooks of these, but I saw these original UK paperback editions, and I love these books so much I couldn't resist getting them. So I got the first 3 books from the Dollenganger series by Virginia Andrews. So Flowers in the Attic. This is one of those ones that looks like a step back cover, but tragically is not. It's just a regular boring cover. So anyway, Flowers in the Attic. Petals in the Wind, I think, is the second one. And If There Be Thorns is the third one. And I remember my mum having exactly these editions when I was growing up. In fact, I think I gave her at least one of these books for Mother's Day, which, given what they're about, feels a bit weird. But anyway, got those. And then another book from my childhood. So this is a book I owned, and I'm sure I definitely read some of it, but I don't think I ever finished it. I think I DNF'd this book, probably partly because it's over 700 pages long, and I think I was only like 12 or 13 when I was trying to read it, maybe even younger than that. Anyway, it's Duncton Wood by William Hallwood, which is I guess a kind of Watership Down rip-off, but about moles rather than rabbits. So anyway, that's what I got in that bookshop, in the YMCA bookshop. And then when I got home, I realised that one of the books I had picked up while I was there, I didn't have. So one of the books I picked up, I can't remember which one it was now, but it was by Irving Wallace. And I've always wanted to read some Irving Wallace. So I got home and unpacked the books, and I was like, where's that Irving Wallace book? And I'd literally been going around the shop because they had loads of boxes of books, like picking up this growing stack and putting it down. And at some point I must have put down the Irving Wallace book and just left it there. So didn't come home with it. So the following week, when I was in Hove again, I went back to the shop, and lo and behold, as you can see from this photograph, the 8 books for £1 deal had mushroomed into a 15 books for £1 deal. So I went in and I did buy some more books. I didn't buy 15. It was reasonably slim pickings, including, I think, all of the books that are here I had seen the previous week and rejected. But given it was 15 for £1, I couldn't resist buying some more. Sadly, they didn't have the Irving Wallace book, so I need to find another way to get that. But anyway, I got, as advertised earlier in this video, some more Robert Ludlums. So I got the Rhineman Exchange, the Icarus Agenda. I remember Jonathan Ross, the UK TV presenter and DJ, talking about a game that he and his wife would play on holiday, which was to come up with Ludlum titles, which is just, you just say the, and then a name, and then a random noun, which is what all of his titles are. So anyway, the Icarus Agenda, which is a big thick one, and then the Aquitaine Progression. I do love the cover of this one with the kind of golden gauntlet holding some flags for some reason. I'm not sure why. So I got all of those ones, and then also got a book which I read, another book by this author, and I can't now remember what it was, but I remember it being really good. And looking at this list of his other books in the front, I still can't remember what it was. Anyway, the book is Dirty White Boys by Stephen Hunter, which is kind of a crime thriller about someone escaping from Oklahoma State Penitentiary, by the sound of it. I also discovered this one, which I hadn't heard of, but looks really interesting. So this is a German submarine novel. When did it come out? It came out in 1957. So I'm going to assume that the author, Wolfgang Ott, spent time on U-boats, and this that kind of informed this. So maybe this is a book that was kind of published to cash in on the success of Das Boot. I suspect this reissue of it in the UK was published to cash in on the success of the TV series of Das Boot. Anyway, it's Sharks and Little Fish by Wolfgang Ott, which sounds interesting. It says it's the most unflinching portrayal ever published of the cruelty and horror of submarine warfare. I got a Dean Koontz book, so I got Cold Fire by Dean Koontz, which I have read and remember actually quite enjoying. This is a not particularly interesting edition, but hey, it was cheap. I also got The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo by Stieg Larsson, which I have read. Now, the reason I bought this was I've got the second 2 books in the Millennium Trilogy in these same editions. So given they had this, it seemed a shame not to pick it up as well. And then finally got a book by Armistead Maupin, who I read the original 6 Tales from the City books back in late 80s, I guess, and really enjoyed them. This is a newer sequel to them, so it's Michael Tolliver Lives. So yeah, I will look forward to revisiting. Maybe I need to reread all of the original Tales of the City books first before I get to this, but I remember them being really fun. So that, I'm just looking around to make sure I haven't missed anything. I don't think I have. So that is this book haul done. I'm going to try and slow down now, I promise. I do have, however, as I said, two Sweet Valley High books in the mail, and 4 books by another American YA author whose name escapes me now. but with amazing titles. The titles of these books are so amazing, I couldn't resist them. So you will see a book haul at some point in the fairly near future, probably, with those in, but hopefully not too much else. Anyway, I will leave it there. Let me know what you think of my lack of self-restraint. And yeah, let me know if you've read any of the books as well, and if there's any you would particularly recommend. Anyway, I will leave it there and say, as always, thanks very much for watching. Hope you're safe and well out there. Hope you're reading good stuff, and I'll speak to you again very soon. Cheerio.